Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Ladies and gents, everybody listening, this is your friendly neighborhood movie lover, John L., and we're here again. Another movie, another review. Let's get into it, shall we? This particular movie, when you finish saving the world, you ask yourselves, John L., what the hell is this? Well, folks, this is a movie I was enlightened to sometime last month when I was watching the trailers during Babylon. I wrote the name of the movie down and I saved it in my phone, and I said to myself, this seems interesting. I'm going to watch this whenever it comes out. And the trailer stated it would be out in January. So I said, okay, cool. This will be one of the few films I watch in the month of January. So full disclosure, I booked to see this movie on Friday. And it was supposed to be, or I booked it at the Alamo Drafthouse, the one I go to all the time, here in Manhattan, New York. And I was supposed to go see it, and the movie start time was at 3:30. So I thought to myself, hey, if I get to the gym 12:30, I should be out of there by 3. It'll give me enough time to jump on the train from where I am located gym-wise, get on the train, and head down to the Alamo and be down there in time. I was wrong. Miscalculated everything. I got to the theater 20 minutes late on Friday, and the dude at the front desk was cool enough to let me rain check the movie and watch something else that I wasn't going to be late for. Which in turn, he flipped When You Finish Saving the World for Megan for me. And I was able to watch Megan on Friday full bore, because Megan started at 3:45. I'm there at 3:50. I'm only 5 minutes behind. The trailers are on. As long as the movie hasn't started yet, I can get inside a theater. That's how strict the Alamo Drafthouse is. So anyways, I defaulted, and I said, I'm still watching this film. I don't have anything to watch on Sunday. So I booked When You Finish Saving the World for Sunday, January 22nd. And I leave my house with more than enough time. And yeah, I know I'm going around about, haven't talked about the movie yet, but I got to tell you guys, living in New York and dealing with our public transportation system, especially during the weekends, is a headache. I left my house with an hour and 10 minutes to spare. It usually takes me about 45 to 50 minutes from where I am home-wise to get to the Alamo Drafthouse. Man, I get there, it's like 1:05. And I'm like, I was supposed to be early, fam. Reason I was a little late, the express trains weren't going express for a good chunk, so they went local. So obviously that takes time out of the transportation and how fast I'm supposed to get there. So I get there 5 minutes late. It's cool. They didn't say anything to me at the front desk. I sit down. I usually sit on the right side of the theater on an aisle seat at the Alamo. I had to go to the left. That's all that was available. So I went all the way to the left. New angle for me. Still saw the whole screen. Wasn't like I was missing anything. So I just don't like to sit in the middle of any row. Because at the end of the day, regardless if it's cushy sitting or not, having to get up half the time when you get there early or late and people have to pass by you is super annoying. I'd rather sit at the end of any row or in the aisle of any row because I don't got to get up ever. So, convenience, folks. First world problems. But anyways, on to the film. I'll mention this. There were a couple of trailers before the movie started that I didn't get the names of the movies for. But I know if I see them again, that I will write them down so that I can go ahead and watch them. The two films that caught my eye are both out in March. One of them has Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. I think the film is called Good People. I think. Don't quote me on that. And then the other film that I was interested in, I'm completely blanking on right now for whatever reason. But I do remember that it's supposed to be out in March as well. And I'll know what it is that I'm looking at once I see it again. But I also, a couple of days ago, saw another trailer for a movie coming out in March as well called Marlowe, which is a noir film that has Liam Neeson in it. And if you know me, I love noir. So I'm down to go watch that movie in March. So March is going to be pretty busy for me already. So there's that. When You Finish Saving the World is the film we're talking about. Let me give you guys the breakdown on this film. Here's the breakdown on the film, folks. This movie was released on January 20th, this past Friday. The writer-director of this movie is none other than Jesse Eisenberg. If that name is familiar to you, it is because Jesse Eisenberg is also an actor. Jesse has been in countless films. I think the two films that he's gotten most notoriety for is The Social Network. I think he's the one who played the character who was supposed to mirror Mark Zuckerberg. And then also, he's got notoriety for his portrayal of Lex Luthor in the Snyderverse version of Batman vs. Superman. And I think he was in this Man of Steel movie as well. I could be wrong. I don't know. I forget. And he's been in countless other films as well. But he was the writer-director of this one. This is his directorial debut. And here's a synopsis on the film. It goes right into some character description. Evelyn, played by Julianne Moore, has devoted herself to helping people in hard times, but she struggles to connect with her son Ziggy. Ziggy's played by Finn Wolfhard of Stranger Things and Ghostbusters Afterlife Accord. Ziggy is an aspiring internet star, oblivious to the problems of the world. As Evelyn attempts to become a parent figure to an unassuming teenager she meets at her shelter, and Ziggy fumbles through his pursuit of a brilliant and politically conscious young woman at his high school, this emotional comedy reveals as a funny and sharply perceptive portrait of a mother and son who may seem at odds, but who are more alike than either would care to admit. Now, this isn't a single mother drama. Finn Wolfhard's character Ziggy comes from a two-parent home. His mother, played by Julianne Moore, and his father, played by J.O. Sanders. So, I didn't know what to expect from this movie. But if there's anything that I've ever learned about the types of characters that Jesse Eisenberg seems to relate to the most, and how he interacts with people. I've watched him in countless types of interviews and things of that nature. I would say that quirky works very well for the kind or a characteristic of Jesse Eisenberg. And that's exactly what I thought about this film. This film was filled with quirkiness, so many different awkward moments, and also it was quirky, it was awkward, and it was cringy. But like, cringy in a charming sort of way. Like in a way that we can all relate to it, because Finn's character, Ziggy, is playing a high school kid. And a lot of what high school kids do when they're like socially awkward or live in a bubble is just awkward and cringy as hell. So that came across so clear and so evident in this film. There was also not just the dynamic that Finn had with his mother, Evelyn, Julianne Moore. It spoke to the description here from the synopsis, right? That he's oblivious to the problems of the world because he's insulated himself in this bubble of being this internet star where he has 20,000 followers. That's repeated like several times in the movie. And it's this sense of validation for him because people like him and he wants people to like him. Like most teenagers do, right? Or at least that's the perception of it. But then his mother, played by Julianne Moore, she's quirky and awkward and persistent in her actions and very deliberate at the same time. And she has a very odd relationship with her teenage son, like most parents do with their teenage kids, to be honest. And for Jesse Eisenberg to capture that in such a way, like I said, it was cringe, but like it was cringe in the sense of, yeah, this happens. This isn't just movie stuff. This isn't just stuff for the big screen or the small screen. This happens in real life. Now, the only thing I would say that was even more cringe than how the dynamic between mother and son took place was the dynamic of how Ziggy, Finn's character, tried to appeal to this girl he liked. Now, folks, I have a good memory most of the time. And even nowadays, at my age, I'm not 40 yet. I'm in my late 30s. I know I can be sort of awkward when it comes to interactions with women in general, especially ones that I like or I'm attracted to. I've never been the suave, debonair type. That I leave that for like my friends, my brothers, whoever. I'm surrounded by men who are like that, but I'm not like that. And to see him struggle so much to get this girl's attention and to try to appeal to her better nature was so... It wasn't refreshing, folks. It was like, wow, dude, this is cringe, but damn, I feel your pain. You know, I could totally relate. There was half the time, and you guys might think I'm completely crazy for even saying this or doing this. Folks, I was in the movie theater, and I found the movie so cringe that I couldn't look at the screen a lot of the time, but I was listening to the film. And I knew how some of these scenes played out. And I didn't have to look at how Finn was interacting with Julianne Moore or how Finn was interacting with the young lady that he was interested in. It was just like, I just knew. I could picture it without actually seeing it on the screen, you know? It was so weird. It gave me the feels, if you folks even remember or recall a film in the aughts. Juno. One of my favorite movies in the aughts. That film was quirky and awkward and a pseudo-dramedy. Not a pseudo, but a dramedy. Like the spirit of the movie reminded me of that. Also kind of like the kind of music that Finn played on the internet. Folk pop with like alternative influences, as he put it. Damn, man. It brought that memory of Juno back in my head because of the soundtrack of Juno, which is one of my favorite soundtracks of any movie in the last 20 years. That and Walk Hard. Shouts to Dewey Cox. But back to this movie. Yeah. Like the growing up, right? How to grow and mature and have better social interactions with people of your age group, and then have a better understanding of who your parents are as people, not just as your mom and dad, but like what makes them tick. And where it is that you get some of your things from, where some of your traits come from. And in the movie Julianne Moore, not that she stopped caring, but she didn't necessarily connect with Ziggy, and Ziggy didn't connect with her. But as the synopsis said, they were, by the end of the movie, we saw, as the audience, we saw that they were more alike than they figured themselves to be. And that was interesting. Because how everything developed and unfolded was a couple of days in the life and things of that nature. To describe Julianne more and one of the underlying storylines in the movie, where she was trying to become a parent figure to this unassuming teenager who she met at her shelter. Julianne Moore, working in a shelter for, I would say, victims of domestic abuse and domestic violence, be it children, and it's a women's shelter in that perspective. And there is this particular woman. She comes in with a teenage son. Julianne Moore takes a liking to the teenage son in the sense of wanting to help him, wanting him to aspire to more than what he's been exposed to. And she just goes a little bit too hard, and it backfires on her. And he doesn't end up wanting for himself what she envisions for him. So she went too hard, and there was a part of the movie after she realized that it wasn't going to work out the way that she wanted. She ended up having a emotional breakdown and crying in her car and things of that nature. And then that's where I would say the epiphany happened. She let go of the situation with this random young man. She then looked into what her son was doing and why he thought it so important to be this internet star. And she started watching his videos of his songs and his vlogs and things of that nature of when he was a much younger kid. And it ended up, that's how she, like her mind opened up. And Finn, or Ziggy, ended up at his mom's job after he failed to appeal to the young lady, and him not wanting to be in the same space, and him not being concentrated in the classroom, he picked up and left, ended up at his mom's job. His mom was going through that whole thing and then watching his videos on YouTube. And then the ending scene is her coming out of the office, looking at the back of her son's head as her son is looking at all the different awards and different things that his mom had accomplished with the center. And then they were face to face, eye to eye, because the young man was still trying to find purpose in life, and she had found hers. But even though she had found her purpose in life, she wasn't connected to one of the most important people in her life, which is her son. And he wanted to connect more to purpose in life. And I feel like after all the verbal attacks towards both his parents, but specifically more his mother, which the movie was aimed towards, the clarity came where it's like, I might want to find out and explore the kind of knowledge and wisdom my mom has to see if I can be better in life. That's what I got by the end of the movie. But everything that happened to lead up to that particular moment was funny. It was ripe with realism, good sarcasm in certain places. There was like I said, a lot of the score is what really turned me off about the movie. If I didn't say that before, then I'll say it now. Like the score had this neo-techno video game sound to it. And it sounded more like stuff that should have been in an anime in comparison to a live action film like this. Like that was the part of the movie that threw me off the most, was the score. And I knew the feel it was going for because it's modern day. Also, we're speaking of today's youth, so we want to be able to have the effect of looking into the future. Like I can understand the train of thought, but like it just didn't, as music for the movie, it just didn't land well for me. So I'll say that. But outside of that, I think Finn Wolfhard and Julianne Moore had some great performances. I think everybody had great performances in this film as they were all involved and stuff like that. So would I recommend this film to you guys? I would. Now, let's be real here. I'm always real with you guys. Is this film for everybody? Probably not. The reason I say that is because it just might be too cringy for some. It might just be too awkward for some. And people won't be able to relate to that in some way. I went through that kind of a spell through my teenage years. I still go through that stuff now. So which is why I look at it through the ironic lens, and I can laugh at myself and also have a level of awareness where it's like, this shit's still happening. So I'm not the only one, you know? So you're never alone out there, folks. You're never alone. But for a movie that only lasted an hour and 28 minutes, it felt like a 2-hour movie. So I'll say that they packed in a lot in that hour 28. This film was distributed by A24, and like I stated before, it's out in limited release, and it was released this past Friday, January 20th. Let's hit the Rotten Tomatoes score here, so you guys have an idea of where it's floating. So 124 critics have seen the movie. Is at a 64%. And then the audience score with fewer than 50 verified ratings is at a 70%. So, you know, it's fairly, I wouldn't say mixed necessarily, but like, you know, it's an average film at best, at least from what we're getting between critics and the audience. But yeah, I think, is it a complete coming of age story? No. But at the same time, it does show us those relationship dynamics between parents and their teenage kids, the relationship dynamics between teenage kids and other teenage kids, shows us the dynamic of where teenagers seek validation, not just their person-to-person social groups, but also this internet-based community that Finn's character is so attached to. 20,000 followers on the internet. That's a lot of people across the globe. You know, you can understand it, but you can't just stand on that alone if you don't have or don't know yourself as a person yet, which is what I felt about Finn's character Ziggy. Kid's far from knowing who he is as a full-fledged human being yet. He's getting there. You know, he's a 17-year-old in this movie, so what are you going to do? I would recommend the film, folks, but this is one of those where I would say to you, go out, look this up. The movie is called When You Finish Saving the World. Look it up. It's in theaters now. Probably more in the theaters that play Indie Fair. Like I said, I watched this at the Eleonore Draft House. So if there's an Eleonore Draft House by you, they're probably showing it. And if not, if you have a theater that plays Indie Fair by you, head there and check this one out and see for yourself whether you would like this film or not. It's not a 100% grade A recommendation. I know there's going to be people who don't jive with this, but hey, I think this is a good dive into the psychology of today's teenagers and certain levels of social interaction, be it with adults or their peer group. So that's that. That's my review on When You Finish Saving the World. Finn Wolfhard, Julianne Moore. They did the damn thing. This coming week, folks, it's a hard pick'em for films right now. So my aim this week is to pick one film that was released in January. The film entitled Plane. I think I've got that for tomorrow. And I believe that the menu is still playing at my local AMC. I didn't get to watch that when it came out, so I'm going to go catch that. And if my good friend is available, I might be able to catch Infinity Pool this weekend. So I will give you guys 3 times dope for next week on the uploads. But until then, folks, as always, thank you for listening. I appreciate you all from wherever it is that you're listening. I was looking at my analytics the other day, and regardless of how many of you in number and volume are listening, I have a global audience, and that is something I completely appreciate. So to everybody, thank you. Appreciate you all. I will continue to bring you the content. Until next time, folks, be well, take care, and stay healthy. This is your friendly neighborhood moviegoer, John L., signing off. Until next time.